This episode of the Gentleman's Scofflaw podcast is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/gentscofflaw to help produce the show.
You are listening to the Gentleman's Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Gentleman's Scofflaw podcast, the podcast for the rebel and the Renaissance man. I'm your host, Jordan Crowder, and co-hosting with me, as per usual, is the Don, Donovan Fowler. How you doing?
Oh, yeah. Doing pretty well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. For our listeners that are listening on the podcast and wondering why I sound a little muffled, it's because I am wearing the new Gentleman's Scofflaw face mask, face covering, whatever you want to call it. It's got a picture of a skeleton with a mustache smoking a pipe on it.
He's the new gent scoff male model.
Yeah. I'm going to take it off now so I could sound better here. But, yeah, if you want to order one of these, go over to gentlemanscofflaw.com on our, click the shop link. I'm trying to get it off my ear here. They're under my headphone. It was like double locked down.
It's like a leech.
Yeah. We know that, not everybody has to wear these right now, but some places require them by law. And for those of you that want to wear them and, need to wear one, why not wear one that has a picture of a scofflaw on it? All right. That's my pitch for today. How you been, man?
I'm doing well, man. Just if anybody can tell from the status of my bedroom, it's my life is in a bit of a disarray this week. Everything sort of fell in the same week. It was midterms, taxes, and just everything else, papers.
A lot of paperwork.
But yeah, life's good, man. Life's good. Yeah. Weather's cooling down, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah. I wish it would cool down here. I think it's going to cool down over the weekend, but we had like a spike in some hot weather again over here in Los Angeles, which we don't get a lot of seasons here, but we do get a little bit of fall.
A little bit of fall.
Last time, I don't remember if last year we had some fall tree changes in Glendale and stuff, which was kind of rare for the fall. I don't know why that was. It wasn't like a typical fall. But
yeah, the only time I ever could distinguish fall was Long Beach in California. I don't know why. Maybe closer to the ocean.
Maybe. Later on the show, we're going to have Isaac Saul, the founder, writer over at Tangle News. We're going to talk to him about his new website and newsletter. Not new, I guess it's over a year old, but some of the really cool stuff he's doing over there with that news website. We got to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. Almost skipped over that. What do you got there, Donovan?
How dare you? You were slacking on the job. You fell asleep at the wheel, and now we're all going to die.
It was the mask thing. It threw me off, just like it's throwing everybody off these days.
Hey, let's not get political with this, please. Please, sir. No, I am, I've got in my pipe, I've got the Virgin Cherry, which is the mainstay these days. Although I'm running out, so I may have to go down to the Outlaw Cigar Lounge and grab some of their stuff. But so that's always good. And then I got my Four Roses right here. Bringing in the weekend with some good old Four Roses.
Well, I've got my Stanwell brushed billiard pipe. In it, I have got some Aaron Gobra Irish whiskey tobacco.
I can get behind that.
It's actually, I haven't opened this up in a while, and I got a whiff of it, and it aged really well. It's got a really, you could tell the Virginias in it have, aged a little bit. It's got that kind of citrusy, kind of sweet smell to it that it's already an aromatic, but it doesn't smell like it used to. So let me get that lit.
Here's a question while you're lighting your pipe. I totally forgot because I switched over cigars for a good long while, and now I'm back to intermittently doing the pipe. When I'm reading cases and stuff at night, I'll light up the pipe and relax. But is it pack it like a man, pack it like a lady, pack it like a baby, or is it the other way around?
It's the other way around.
Oh, okay.
Because you want the top to be the tightest point, but you want the airflow underneath it. Kind of like building a fire a little bit.
No, I feel like an idiot. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I didn't even consider the science of the whole thing.
That's all right.
No, that actually makes sense. I was, because for a long time I was doing the pack it tight at the bottom. And I think it wasn't going terribly, but I definitely could see how this is.
Truth is, everybody has their own kind of way of doing it. Like it's just whatever works for you, But
speaking of which, one of the deans at my law school is you got some
Johnny Walker going. You continue to talk.
To quote a beautiful Paul Bettany from Beautiful Mind, "Officer, I saw the man who hit me. His name was Johnny Walker." I kind of half get that joke. It must be a British thing. Anyways, Johnny Walker's always good. My dean, the dean at law school, is a pipe smoker, and he will break out. We've been on Zoom with him a couple of times. He'll just break out his pipe and just start, just light it up and let the smoke clouds roll. So I'm looking forward to my meeting with him because I'm going to ask him about all things.
Do you do a Zoom meeting with him? Because you should just have your pipe on hand.
Yeah, I know. I think I will. If I can do it out on my patio, I probably will do that. But the other thing I was going to ask, how is the Evan Williams 1786?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's one of those. It's a number.
Like it's basically the Gentleman Jack of Evan Williams, right?
Yeah, it's actually really good, and it pairs really good with cigars. Lacey got me a good cigar for my birthday that it went well with, and it's just like, it's funny. It was just like the Total Wine and More Maduro cigar.
Okay.
Which is like, it's made by another company. I forget. It's kind of like, like Costco, like their Kirkland's is made by like whatever.
Usually like these cigar shops and places like that, they always have their own brand, but it's coming from the same factories that like Punch and a lot of other places are doing.
Speaking of cigars, I am wearing my cap, Puro Humo cigars over in Glendale, California, down by the Americana. If you're ever looking for a good spot to go, that's just a free plug for them. They don't pay me anything. Jonathan and I had many.
They're not Chiefs. I think we're gonna hit the same point. Sorry, I stepped on you. But
no, go ahead.
They're not Chiefs fans. Let's just put it that way.
No, that's true. Yeah, because we've spent a few nights over there planning some Scofflaw episodes and watching some games. But it's L.A. They're gonna cheer for the home team. I don't know what you expected of them.
Whatever. I just thought they'd be interested in a team that was good. But there's no accounting for taste.
Accounting for taste. All right. I don't know if you saw this thing. I saw this thing going around on Instagram, posted over by Men's Humor. Lady Scofflaw sent this to me. We're laughing pretty hard. I don't know if you saw this picture, Donovan, but the caption says, "That's a damn good friend," and the description, it has, let me describe the photo here if you're listening to the podcast. It's got a man, a man working out with a dumbbell in two different frames, and behind him is a friend in a silly costume. And then the caption says, "This guy wears strange costumes to the gym to attract as much attention as possible because his friend is embarrassed to go to the gym." So he's using a little bit of negative reinforcement here. One of the photos, he's dressed like some sort of, I don't know if it's like an Ewok or something, and then the other one, he's like some fancy gentleman with is that the big bad wolf or something?
I don't know, man. He's wearing a top hat with a cane and a man. That's one dedicated friend. He really, what does he do? Does he work out or does he just stand there?
Maybe
he's like a weird, this is like a weird Fight Club situation.
That's what it looks like.
Imaginary friend or something.
Oh man,
that's bizarre. I will say, the guy's not that he's not morbidly obese. He's just, he's just overweight. I mean, he's got some extra baggage. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But he just looks like a big guy. If he got in there, I don't think anybody'd pay any mind to him.
I think it's just his friend is just trying to screw with him and make sure that he gets his workouts in. Which I could probably use somebody doing that a little. They could put a little fire under my belt.
Doing that. I think that would get old real fast.
Yeah, real fast.
At least with me, I know that much.
All right, get out of here. I don't know if you saw this man charged with slipping razor blades in pizza dough sold in Maine supermarket.
When did they start? When did Domino's start hiring ISIS?
I know. It says a Dover man faces criminal charges alleging he slipped razor blades into a pizza dough that made its way onto the shelf of a Maine supermarket. Police identified the suspect as Nicholas Mitchell. He appeared during a brief remote hearing Tuesday morning in the 7th Circuit District Court, where he agreed to challenge his transfer back to Maine to face charges. The customer, who police didn't name, had purchased Portland pie pizza dough and located razor blades inside the dough.
I see. So
Yeah.
wait, he was like claiming that they were already in there.
Yeah, that they were already in there.
Oh,
Slipped them
okay.
in there.
Because at first I was like, I thought he was intentionally slipping the blades in there so that people would eat it.
Yeah.
Like a psychopath on Halloween putting needles in the candy.
Which apparently is a total myth.
That was total myth, but there's some weird stories around it. It's kind of like if it were on Snopes, it would be like that. Like, this is true, but also false.
Well, Lisa Morton, who we're going to have on a couple weeks, wrote about the history of Halloween. We can talk with her about that.
She'll tell us about the guy who actually did it, but it was kind of similar to this, but even more horrifying than this. But dude, yeah, this guy. Well, that's that's points for creativity. I mean, well, actually, no. I'm going to say
no points.
This guy's like This guy is like the Zack Snyder of like fake crimes. Like, he overdid it. Like, he overplayed his hand. Like, his symbolism was too it was over the top. But I mean, razor blades. All you had to do was stick a couple of I don't know, a little bit of broken glass should do it.
Broken glass. I wonder if he's a wet shaver. Where do you get fine razor blades like that these days?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I wonder if these were Gillette. I'm guessing that these were Gillette. I'm even going so far as to say that maybe this guy works for Gillette.
That doesn't surprise me. I don't
know if that's true. He does have a pretty heavy shadow on there, so we know the razor blades weren't being used.
That's true.
Well, but then the neck is clean. I don't know.
He's got clean neckline. Could be using
neckline. So
I cleaned up with this before this, but I used the pack of blades that Douglas over at feedingshaving.com sent to us. So
I guess the one thing I'd say as a future Supreme Court justice, why the razor blades? I mean, like, I read it and I'm like, what's the argument? Like, somebody inserted these razor blades in at the factory where this dough is made, or somebody inserted them in at the store. Like, wouldn't you be way better off doing something that was actually explainable? Like, even the finger in the chili back at with Wendy's was more believable than this. Yeah. Razor blades, it's just such a like obvious. Yeah. Stands out too much.
Yeah, I feel like something that would maybe be in the environment of the, I don't know, of where you make pizza that get caught in there, you'd have more of a chance in accusing somebody of putting razor blades in there.
Yeah, I mean, what are Italians into these days? That would be just the number one thing that would fall into a pizza dough. Let's see, what's the most stereotypical thing that we can think of with Italians?
Espresso.
Yeah, some espresso beans.
Some espresso beans.
Yeah,
I don't know how the beans I got it in the pizza though.
It's just making my midday espresso.
I
Can't tell if I went Swedish with that or what.
Swedish, Jamaican. So I don't know if you saw this a while back, probably about a month or two ago. There's a man sighted wearing a jetpack flying all around L.A.
I did see this. I think he showed up again.
Yeah, well, that's what this article is here. Apparently, this week he showed up again, spotted around LAX, and they're investigating it again. Who knows? Maybe he's an alien. Maybe he's just the Rocketeer.
Well, I mean, we do know that something's out there with all this stuff that's coming out about aliens. I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it is cool to a certain extent. I don't really know if I condone his behavior because if you run into a jet, which does happen, we should just have a segment on here called like the weird habits of Donovan Fowler. Last week it was looking up bald celebrities, and this week it's every once in a while I get
blazing
bored.
Pizzas.
I get bored on a Saturday night, and I start to go down some weird rabbit hole. In one case, it was aircraft disasters, and I read about all the aircraft disasters that have happened throughout history. Which is pretty. It's a long list, but the time period is short because we've only had flight for like a little over 100 years. Yeah. Anyways. It does happen where like small aircraft will collide with larger jets, and then it just totally, just disaster. Like just plane falls out of the sky, hits a neighborhood, and kills everybody. Yeah. In this case, I hope he knows what he's doing. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. I hope Iron Man knows what he's doing.
If anybody knows who this guy is and can track him down, we'd love to have him as an anonymous contributor to the or a guest on the podcast. Just have him on, ask him what's he doing. It'd be
accidentally leave the facial blur off and voice. Turns out it's just Robert Downey Jr. It's like, I am Iron Man.
That's exactly what it's. L.A. You never know. These eccentric rich guys.
True.
What if I don't know? I feel like
billionaires.
I bet you it's somebody we know. It's somebody we know out there. It's definitely someone we know.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, wait. By somebody we know, do you mean like somebody we personally know, or somebody in the news?
Somebody in the news. It's got to be somebody.
Who would be your number one guess?
I don't know. I think everybody like automatically goes to Elon Musk, but
that's true.
Maybe maybe it's Keanu Reeves. That would make a lot of sense.
That's true. That's a good guess. I'm going to say Leonardo Dicaprio. Because Leonardo, ever since he won his Oscar, he just seems bored with life. And he also, this is actually this
younger girlfriend. Younger girlfriend.
Little bit of evidence here, Your Honor. He was seen on a jetpack a while back. It was like in the ocean. It's like one of those hydro-powered ones where like it shoots up water and it sends you flying into the air.
That's pretty awesome.
So that's it's entirely possible that Leo has decided to become a man of flight.
One of his weird hobbies. All right. We want to see what you want us to talk about on the show. Any sort of news articles or funny stories you come across during the week, go ahead and send it to us at gentlemanscofflaw@gmail.com or on any of our social media outlets. Outlets? Are they outlets? I guess they're outlets. I don't know.
I think that's what people call them. Platforms. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more apt.
I used the wrong word. That's why we have a lawyer on the show. You're speaking to the
guy who I had a total. Last week, if anybody was listening, I had a total brain freeze in the middle of it. I went. What's the name? Wendy Williams. I went full Wendy Williams, and I was trying to find the word.
You went like Danny DeVito on The View.
That was the word.
Oh yeah.
Well, Danny DeVito on The View was like hammered. Right? Let's be fair. I mean, Danny DeVito is like, he was plastered, man, and he's a
I think
tiny
he had
man.
a stroke though during that interview.
Yeah,
It looked like he went away for a bit.
It's entirely possible. But the word that I was looking for was preface, because I think we were talking about like like an interview, and I was like, we could and I could have either gone with preview or preface, but I didn't have a dictionary in front of me, and happens, like Wendy Williams, happens to the best of us.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
You could also call us at man81scoff. Leave us a voicemail, or leave us an iTunes review for a chance to be featured on the show. We've been collecting some of them to read in our listener voicemail or listener mail segments in the coming episodes. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Isaac Saul to talk about Tangle News. Hello, gentlemen scofflaws. Thanks so much for being a loyal listener of the show, and your feedback and support is really what keeps us going and means a lot to us, so sincerely, thank you again. Now, if you're a fan of the show and you want to take your support to the next level, why not support the show on Patreon? We offer all sorts of extras on there, like outtakes, extended interviews, a bonus movie podcast, and behind-the-scenes content. Better yet, we have options that start as little as $1 a month. You pay more for that at a parking meter to go in and grab a cup of coffee at Starbucks. See what I did there? If you're interested in helping support the show, please check out patreon.com/gentscofflaw or click the support link on the website. Again, that's patreon.com/gentscofflaw. We look forward to having you as part of our team. All right, I'm excited to have this guest. We've been going back and forth for a while. I'm glad to have him on, and now it's kind of more perfect timing. We've got, with everything that's going on right now in politics and the election and 2020, and Isaac Saul, the founder of Tangle News. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I've been reading your newsletters, I think since it came out, because a mutual friend of ours sent it to me, and I've been really enjoying it, and I get the emails every day. I'd love to just, before we get into that, I'd love to just give our listeners kind of a little bit of your story and background and kind of where you started and where you came from.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which typically is a bellwether for the national election and the national political climate. It's probably one of the most divided counties politically in America, suburban PA, just outside Philadelphia. So that's super critical to everything that I do in my work, which is basically, I have a lot of friends who are on both sides of the political spectrum. So I went to the University of Pittsburgh. I was a sports journalist for a little while. Lived in Israel, ended up in New York working for the Huffington Post, which I quickly found out made me like a liberal joke to pretty much half the country. And that also was super informative for me. And then about 6 years ago, I helped build a media company with the actor Ashton Kutcher called A+, which is like a positive news website. So that content is sort of like solutions journalism. We do a lot of reporting about people who are solving big issues, stuff like climate change, things like that. And I was on the politics beat there for a long time, probably about 5 or 6 years. And we got bought and we pivoted to all video, and I was no longer able to write politics. So I had all these sources. I had a ton of experience. I had a lot of interest in the national political scene, and I didn't really have anything to do with all of it. So I started this newsletter, Tangle, which very simply put is basically my way of bringing together the best arguments across the political spectrum into one daily 10-minute read. So, from reading it, every newsletter is pretty much formatted with like, what's the top story of the day? What's the left saying about it? What's the right saying about it? And what's my take? And I generally try and find, some common ground, but also try to be true to my own political persuasions and transparent about what my biases are and things like that. So it was sort of a long, winding road to get here. And I've been writing the newsletter for about 13 months now, which is fucking crazy. And it's been pretty much the craziest year you could possibly start writing a political newsletter. So, it's been a wild ride, and now we're, I think, 26 days from the election today. So it's heating up. I'm about to break 10,000 subscribers. It's read in every state in America, 23, 24 countries outside the US now. I have a really strong base of paid subscribers who are supporting the work, which is awesome. And basically just trying to keep up with the news cycle, man, as the next few weeks unfold.
Gosh, I know it's so crazy how quick it is nowadays with the news cycle. And it's funny because I've pretty much, especially this year, but in the last couple of years, have kind of in a way disengaged with the news a lot of the time, where it's like there's so much to wade through, and you get on Twitter and it's like literally the trending stuff is like changing every 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's vitriol from all sides, and it's just like it could be so like soul sucking and depressing looking through that stuff, which is why I appreciate your newsletter, because I don't know if a lot of people are going through this, but I just don't trust journalism these days. I just know whatever article I look at is going to be, biased, which we know is true, but like usually the headlines are designed to evoke some sort of emotion or some sort of anger or fear. And whenever I see that, like my bullshit meter goes up like right away. But what I like about your newsletter is, obviously you show what the right is saying, what the left is saying, but then you summarize it with your own point of view, and even some of it, like a lot of it I agree with, some of it I'm like I might not agree with that, but the fact that you do that is just to make so much trust with the reader, at least for me, to know that like, okay, like I trust where this guy's coming from. I appreciate that. It's like it's like bringing integrity back to journalism in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess, to say a couple of things about that. One is, I'm very transparent that on some of the biggest issues in the country, like immigration, police reform, healthcare, my politics tend to be center left. And, I get a lot of emails from diehard Trump supporters, really far right people who are like, dude, you're my favorite lib. Like, I love you, man. Thanks for writing this newsletter. And it's because they understand that, I'm willing to engage some of their ideas. I'm willing to hear them out. I'm willing to change my position on things if I'm presented with something that, changes my perspective. And like most Americans, my politics are complicated. I mean, I'm very left on an issue like police reform. I fundamentally believe policing in America is broken. I believe there has to be a major overhaul of how our police interact with citizens. And that's not even a very liberal thing. I mean, a lot of libertarians feel that way. A lot of conservatives feel that way. But, on like an issue like gun control or something like that, I'm a lot closer to the center and right of a lot of my friends. And so, I think a lot of Americans are like that. Their positions are mixed based on whatever the issue is. And everybody's getting bucketed now, left, right, Trumper, Biden, Bernie, socialist, whatever. And a lot of it's just crap. And to your point about the clickbait stuff, I mean, the thing that I love about Tangle and about the newsletter is, I've totally obliterated that incentive structure. I mean, from working in the industry, I can tell you one of the most important things at many news outlets is driving traffic. I mean, that's like, you get hits on your website, the more views an article gets, the more traffic the ads on the article get, the more money the news publisher makes. And there's a clear incentive there. It's like, get people into the article, get people to click on it. And my incentives, the only revenue stream I have, the only money I make is from my subscribers. So people pay me if they think that this content is really good and it's adding value for them. It's making it easier to understand politics. And for me, that's like, it's so much weight off my shoulders where I can just produce high quality stuff without clickbaiting people, without sensationalizing things, and, turning the temperature down on all the craziness out there. And people are willing to pay for that they want that because I think, to your point, it's hard to find in the media landscape right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't found many sites that are doing, I mean, there's always like people always talk about like Real Clear Politics, but I feel like that's like the extreme of both ends as opposed to like the more what you're doing, which is like the more nuanced, the more nuanced approach to it. But like you said, people's politics are complicated. I mean, I came from a background where I was, I don't want, like, I would have said far right, but that means something different than it today than it does nowadays. But, and then just over the years, it's just like, I realized that at least with both parties, I didn't really fit into any kind of, my beliefs didn't fit into either of them completely. And it's more complicated. Not necessarily that a lot of my opinions have changed, but I feel like the political landscape around me has changed so much, which is the weird, crazy thing.
Yeah, I mean the country's changing a lot now in a way, that is really, really visible. Even just looking at how politics are done, the debate last night, the debate last week versus, what we saw just 8 years ago. I mean, the whole temperature and the framework for everything is totally different. I mean, like they talk about the Overton window a lot, and it's been shifted in a way where I don't really know what comes next, but I do know that, for a huge chunk of the country, their political beliefs are based solely on the media they're consuming because they're just taking in content that's reinforcing whatever their views are. It doesn't matter if you're on the left and you're reading like Fox News or you're reading HuffPost and Daily Kos every day or whatever. If you're on the right and all you do is watch Sean Hannity and read Breitbart, like you're going to get fed a narrative that you like, and that reinforces whatever your reality is. And I think what I'm trying to do at Tangle is take people out of those bubbles and expose them to arguments that they're not finding. And the thing I hear most from readers is just like, oh, I like kind of understand what they're saying. It moderates a lot of people's views just by being exposed to the argument from people who can deliver it in like a thoughtful way that's not like totally blown out of proportion over the top, and people are open-minded. I think generally speaking, what I've learned from doing this is Americans are a lot more open-minded than people think.
Yeah, I think so too. And like you said, I think some of the problem with the kind of the vacuum chamber or whatever, I never get that expression right.
The echo chamber, yeah.
Is the echo, yeah. It's like, that's like, was it rocket surgery? But it's just, the social media thing. And I've slowly I have to be on it for some of the work I do to promote stuff and things. But like, I dread it so much getting on there because it's just like, and someone like me who's like a kind of an investigative personality that likes to like, which is the reason why I love your newsletter, but that likes to just kind of explore a lot of different ideas and see what different people are saying or stuff. Like I'll watch some things on YouTube and then like suddenly all my recommendations are like from one side that like I don't necessarily agree with, but then I'm not seeing anything else. And so like sometimes I'll just like go and click some other thing so that I get a variety in my newsfeed.
Yeah. And I mean, that is so critical to a lot of what's broken about that ecosystem. Is just, I watched that movie Social Dilemma a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, great movie.
Great film. And, I think some of the stuff about it, for me, it leaned a little bit heavy on like, oh, these algorithms and like the machine's out of control. And it's like, no, it's not the fucking machine. It's like the guys built this to be this way. The whole point is to get people to click more, get people to stay on the page more. And it's like that, humans can change this. We can fix this. Like the guys who built it can change it, and the consumers can change it by not rewarding like all the clickbait bullshit, which is like, really central to a lot of what the problems are, I think, right now.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, like, for something that is so well researched and you have to do it every day, how do you wade through all of that stuff? I mean, you must have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. I mean, the first thing is like I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. And I mean, because I recognize that some of my politics, broadly speaking, are sort of center left. The first thing I open up in the morning is the Wall Street Journal. Like, I'm very intentional about getting, my initial perspective on what's important about the day from a more conservative leaning newspaper, because I want to understand like what's happening outside some of that echo chamber that I've created for myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll read the New York Times, the Washington Post. I'll go through their front pages and I'll just be like, I'll look for two stories that are crucial to what I guess shared across all three pages, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if I see that, I'm like, all right, there are a couple of stories like this that are clearly like the stories people are talking about. And then it's sort of stepping out of those traditional papers into the Fox News, into the HuffPost, into, Vox or National Review, and going into the places that are more openly leaning left or right, and just kind of like pluck out what the big thing everybody's talking about is. And once I do that, that's sort of like the work. Like I'm, hopefully I have that done by 6 a.m, or maybe even the night before if a big story breaks, in the middle of, like if a story broke right now, I'd know what tomorrow's newsletter was going to be about.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, it's reading 25, 30 opinion pieces from across the spectrum and news stories, trying to understand how people are formulating their arguments, maybe listen to a podcast or something like that. And every time I see a sentence or a paragraph that like really compels me, I'm copying and pasting that, putting in a Word document and just sort of like fleshing it out. And the process takes a while. It can be super draining. I always go on Twitter last because that's where like the worst arguments are, but it's good to know, how people are reacting to it on social, because that's really important. And then the last thing I do before I send the newsletter out is I write my take. I write, after having consumed everything and reading all the different arguments, I try and formulate like, do I just agree with one person or one side here? Do I have some middle ground I want to carve out for myself? Or do I have like a totally different take on this that I'm not seeing anybody saying that I'm going to offer? It's just like my personal perspective. And it's pretty split between like how that happens usually.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome though. I mean, that's a ton of work. I admire your dedication to, making sure everybody can get all perspectives here.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And it's a lot of work. It's been rewarding, but it's also exhausting, and I have to give myself time to step away from it. Cause like you said, it's just like, it even for me, someone who loves this stuff and is really interested in how the government works and politics, it can be soul sucking. So you gotta, you definitely have to moderate it. And I get some help. I have like some research interns and a couple editors and a social media person I pay. So there's a group of us, 5 or 6 people who kind of all contribute little pieces, but I'm definitely doing a bulk of that work on my own, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
And the worst part of it too is like I see in some of the newsletters, like you'll get pushback and readers will like come back at you with something, and you'll very graciously like admit and correct things, which I really appreciate. But it's just, I'm sure you're getting stuff all day long from readers too.
Yeah. And I will say, it's sort of like, it's the thing I love and hate the most about it.
Yeah.
I mean, my commitment from the start was that I'm going to share reader feedback anytime I get something that is like thought provoking for me or offers a different perspective. So sort of what you're saying, like at the top, typically I feature it. So it's like the top of every newsletter. If there's a correction, it's there. If there's a piece of reader feedback, it's there. And a lot of people love that because they're just like, it brings in perspectives that aren't my own, and they respect the fact that I'm just willing to say like, I fucked up, or like, here's a perspective I don't agree with, but I want to give it to you because it made me think. But yeah, there is a lot. I would say, if I put 10 hours of work into this thing a day, 5 of those hours are me writing emails back and forth with people who are like, pissed off about something I wrote and we're fleshing out some arguments. So I have a lot of email threads, just like, I sent today's newsletter at noon, and I've probably got 45 emails already of just people criticizing something I wrote or a sentence I wrote or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, but it's fun. It's fun too to chum it up with people, strangers on the internet. And it's certainly more productive than like a comment section on a Facebook post.
Yeah.
It's like, it's more intimate. It's one versus one, and it's like a nicer, a simpler way to sort of communicate and argue with somebody that typically isn't so angry.
Yeah.
Usually, hopefully.
Yeah. You do a lot better than I would. I'd probably just respond. I'd be like, "You're reading this for free." Like, oh, shut up. No, but, what's some of the funniest or like worst criticism you've got that you never published? Like that could be. I'm curious to hear some of the crazy stuff if you've got anything off the top of your head.
Yeah, like I get some really wild stuff. I think the craziest stuff I get is from people who have sort of gotten lost in some of the conspiracy theory stuff, or like the QAnon stuff. I've heard from some people who are like pretty deep into that, who are just kind of like, I'll write something like Joe Biden's tax plan makes a lot of sense for like these middle class voters who make, X amount of money. And they're like, oh, you're going to support some guy who like eats babies and, is a child molester. And you're like, all right. Like, and at some point, even for me, it's like, there's some stuff where you're just like, you just have to let it go. It's like, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
Sometimes like if I see an opening where I can like make a point, I'll try and address that.
Yeah.
And then, I think like, as is true with America, a lot of the hardest conversations to navigate is like anything that has to do with abortion. I hear like from a lot of pro-life people and pro-choice people who, will take issue with me publishing some argument on either side related to abortion or the Supreme Court or whatever. And they'll just say like, if you're going to share this argument, I can't support your work. Like I want to unsubscribe. And I'm just like, look, if you can't expose yourself to arguments you disagree with, then you should definitely unsubscribe. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it. And so like that, those are definitely like, those are up there. And then I get some stuff from the far left too. A lot of the speech correctness stuff can be tough to follow. I've had people write in and say, that using like the term marijuana was racist because I wrote something about legalizing marijuana. And I guess there's sort of a growing movement to refer to it as cannabis because marijuana has like lots of connotations to Spanish speakers and Mexicans and stuff. And I'm like, look, like I am like deeply steeped in Mexican culture. I lived in Mexico for summers growing up. I love Mexican culture. I have family who lives in Mexico. I'm like, love speaking Spanish. It's like something I'm trying to learn. And like, I have such a huge respect for this. Like, you're accusing me of being racist or having some animosity towards Mexicans because I use the word marijuana, which is like a very common word.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Like I'll try and use cannabis more if that is, it doesn't make a difference to me. And like, so there's stuff like that can be really hard to navigate when people are just like, I think their views are on the fringe of things and they want me to come out there with them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hold the center a little bit. So, those off the top of my head, I'd say those are the kinds of feedback I get where I'm like, I just really don't know what to do with this. I struggle to figure out how to navigate it,
Yeah. Geez, that that must be so annoying. So, I assume that with the kind of stuff that you write, you're probably somebody that has a lot of people in your circle that come from different points of view. That's one thing that I value a lot is having friends from all, backgrounds and political, sides of the political spectrum and stuff. And I feel like that's that's what has kept me more center and normal is basically experiencing other people's experiences through them and knowing, getting to know them. What does your circle of friends look like? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I live in Brooklyn, New York now. And obviously, like, this is a pretty liberal place. And, I would say, like, in my immediate friend group in Brooklyn, like, I don't have any friends who are like big Trumpers. I have some like business oriented guys who are pretty down the middle and maybe voted for him in 2016, but are like, they're totally off it now because they just feel like the last few years have been too crazy for them. But, in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, I have a lot of close friends who are police officers, military guys, people who are just like, even just like regular kind of working class dudes who honestly, most of the time are people that the Trump supporters or the people who are really right are not people who are that interested in politics. They're more like they're casting a vote for the guy who's like, fuck the government.
Yeah.
And that's their perspective. And, it's interesting because it's like, I think of all the arguments, that's one that resonates with me the most. Like, I'm sympathetic to that point of view. Like, the government sucks at a lot of things and is really bad at a lot of things. I think, I don't think Donald Trump's the answer. I have like plenty of gripes with him, but I certainly respect the urge to like burn it all down and blow it up because like, you're paying a shit ton in taxes and you're not getting anything you want and your healthcare sucks and the schools suck and the roads suck. And so like, why is anything we've been doing working? And that is something I'm like, I think that is the group of friends that I have that brings the most like diversity of opinion to my circle where I grew up is like a lot of people like that. And the military is pretty split on Trump. I have friends who are military, served in the Navy, who are like, this guy's an idiot, like he doesn't know the first thing about guns or battle or combat. He's a draft dodger, whatever. And then there are guys who are like, he's unambiguously patriotic and pro-American and he's dumping money in the military and they love him for that. And so, I think all that stuff is just more proof that like you can't box people into, I have a gay black friend who's a Trump supporter. I have a hardcore white upper middle class military guy who hates Trump. And it's like, those people are out there. But yeah, in my immediate circle now where I live now, it's mostly liberal and I'm fine with that. It's not like I don't need to be constantly surrounded by political diversity, but going back to my old friends and friends I made in Western Pennsylvania at the University of Pittsburgh from college, there's much more ideological diversity outside of New York, obviously outside of New York City. And it's never been an issue. It's like, I think that you can separate what you want from the government on most issues from, what kind of person somebody is. I think there are certain things, that Trump's done, and that other politicians have done too, that I find like so objectionable that it's hard for me to believe that they're like a good person if you support, banning all Muslims from America. Like I can't really get down with that, but, like I can understand wanting your taxes cut and I can understand, feeling like the police are being treated unfairly in the media or whatever, I mean, those things like are arguments that I'm a lot more receptive to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Now, is there anything like, cause you've been doing this almost a year or over, is it over a year now or is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's now, I started in July or August of last summer. So now it's just about 13, 14 months.
So is there anything that sticks out in the last year that might have, like, where your perspective changed or where you might have been like take Trump, for example, like is there anything like that maybe that you've discovered where you're like, oh, that was a good thing about his presidency? Or even, it could even, doesn't have to be Trump. It could be like Obama, or that wasn't so good. Like, does that ever come up to where you've kind of in this process discovered things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, my perspective on a lot of issues have moved from doing the newsletter actually, which has been like a really interesting experience for me. Mostly because like I'm by virtue of doing it, I'm exposing myself to a lot of different views and getting feedback from readers all over the country and the world who are offering different perspectives that I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
I think for all the things about Trump that I don't like, I think like one of the fundamental things that I think he's done that's really good is, he sort of pulled the curtain back on how the whole, how the sausage is made in politics, which like he does through his own ham-handed handling of situations and hypocrisy and whatever. And like, but other times it's very intentional. I mean, one of my favorite stories to tell people is, I remember very vividly watching Trump at one of the first Republican debates in like 2015. And he said something, or Jeb Bush said something, and the audience started clapping. And Trump looked at the camera and pointed to the audience and he said, all those people you just heard clapping are donors. Every person in this room has a seat because they bought a ticket and they donated to Jeb Bush, and that's why they're clapping. That's why they're pretending they care and support him. And it was like, holy shit, like, yes,
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that before on a debate stage. And it was like, it was so direct. It was so, and it was, he did it in this very Trumpian way. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember that feeling of like, that's different, like that, and then he just spouted off some total nonsense about some foreign policy thing he didn't understand. But it was like, there was this moment like that. And I think he's done that repeatedly throughout his presidency. I mean, with Republicans like, Mitt Romney or something, who is someone I respect a lot, but, Trump will be like, he was here begging me for an endorsement 2 weeks ago, and now he's criticizing me, slamming me to the media. And it's like, he's pulling the curtain back a little bit on how the dirty politics are played.
Yeah.
And he's playing them too, of course, but I very much appreciate that. And I think a lot of readers and a lot of my writing and doing research on this has made me understand like just the power of sort of, having someone who's so far outside the mainstream and the establishment sort of dropped into this position. And that's definitely been a perspective of mine that's changed.
Yeah, I get that too. I mean, he's never been never been my guy, but those are things like you said, every one now and then there's these kind of moments where you're like, oh crap, that's he's really exposing something here, or this is a really peeling back the curtain, and then like immediately after, within seconds, it's all ruined. It happens all the time. Yeah. Well, what about so this is obviously this newsletter is a great format. I'd love to be able to listen to it as a podcast. Is that coming anytime soon, or?
Yeah, so this is something I definitely get a ton of requests for. If I had a voice like yours, man, I would be doing it nonstop. I'll tell you that much.
You got a good voice.
I'm not an audio guy, but I think my first step into it is going to be reading the newsletter. That's going to be the first thing I do. So what I'd really like to do is you open the newsletter and you can just like press play and can listen to it instead of having to read through it. A lot of people have requested that. And that's something I want to do. Right now I'm doing all this work I just told you about alongside a full-time job. So,
wow.
Basically when the newsletter hits a point where I can go at it totally independent and full-time, which I hope comes in the next 6 months or a year, I'll do that, and I'll try and get the podcast off the ground too. And that I think will be readings of the newsletter with just like some more spice, and then trying to land like one interview a week with somebody in the political world, just to chop it up on whatever, the big issues are. Because for me, like this kind of stuff, talking about it is super fun. And I also, I'm a reporter, so by trade. And so interviewing people is like, that's my strength. Like I'm very good at parsing out stuff. And, like watching the debate last night, I was like, God, I would just kill to be the moderator of this debate and have a chance to just like hold them to a question and force them to actually answer something because, I think there are methods to sussing that out and to getting people to really respond to stuff. And there's not enough of it right now. I mean, too many politicians just get away with, answering the questions they want to hear. So yes, the short answer is yes, I'm hoping to do it. I just need like another hour in the day, which I don't currently have, but hopefully soon.
Well, I'll definitely be a subscriber right when it comes out. We need more journalists like you, Isaac. If people want to find you or the newsletter, where do they go?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is tangle.substack.com. You can just go subscribe. If you go there, it'll take you right to my homepage. If you want to see like the worst version of myself, I'm on Twitter too, which is Ike_Saul, IKE_SAUL. And that's sort of where I, get pissed off and let out my most unfiltered thoughts. But I like to think Tangle in the newsletter is like the best version of myself. So I certainly prefer people go there and subscribe, reply to a newsletter, tell me you heard about it on Jordan's podcast, and we can chop it up over email. And that's sort of my favorite medium.
Sweet. Thanks, man. Thanks again for doing this. And we'll have to have you back on as things unfold because I'll love to hear your perspective on things are just going to get worse. Things are just going to get worse. All right.
The next few weeks are going to be nuts. So we should definitely circle back up.
All right, cool, man. Gents, it's fall. And you know what that means? You guessed it, pumpkin everything. Now, before you go and start calling me basic, let me tell you about Phoenix Shaving's new fragrance line called Atomic Pumpkin. Now, this isn't your run-of-the-mill seasonal pumpkin pie offering that everybody's doing. This is something a little more sophisticated and alluring. This aftershave and soap line stays within the classic bay rum tradition, but adds a fall spin. Because Atomic Pumpkin Bay Rum is steeped in classic pumpkin pie spices for up to 6 weeks before the batch is complete. It's almost like a crazy whiskey or cigar or anything that's aged. I'm running out of, what else is aged? Only whiskey and cigars? Wine? I guess? I don't know, guys. I don't know. The point is, look at these ingredients. There's West Indian Bay, Moro Blood Orange, allspice, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and elemi resin. I don't know what that is, but it sounds festive. This is some fall masculine magic done right, guys. So if you're wanting to step up your grooming game this fall, maybe impress the lady in your life, make a great impression at work or school, then check out this limited edition line by Phoenix Shaving. Just go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave, and a portion of anything you buy with that link goes to help support this podcast. So you get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You support the show you love, and you get to fight off ladies with a stick because you smell so damn good. Is that sexist? I don't know, maybe. But that's why I'm a scofflaw and a gentleman. All right, so that's gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave, and stop being a slave to the drugstore shave. All right. Love talking to Isaac. I was introduced to him by a good friend of ours who we Go-Ruck we did back in 2018. July 2018, Andrew Hostler. Don't know if he's listening out there, but he's the one who hooked me up with Isaac and Tangle News. So thank you for that. Also, this month's giveaway, we're giving away a free CAD aftershave from Phoenix Shaving, which if you're a fan of the old Pinot Clubman or some of the old barbershop aftershaves, so maybe some of that dust they put on your neck after they give you a haircut.
Oh gosh, yeah. On a hot day, just go in there, give me a shave, and just, yep. hit me with that talcum powder.
Exactly. Well, that's what this stuff is kind of reminiscent of. You don't want to miss out on it. Again, a link in the show notes to our Instagram where you can find out how you can win one of those. If you want to buy one of those or any of the Phoenix shaving, Phoenix.
The fetus.
The fetus shaving.
Oh, hey, man. Chuck Norris grew a beard right after he got out of the womb.
It's
so,
true.
They need it. Those babies.
Exactly.
They need that shaving gear.
Yeah, you just go to gentlemanScofflaw.com/shave and get some of your gear. Is that all the plugs? Is there anything else we need to plug, Donovan? I know that next week we're having Tim Swanson of Cigars Daily on, and the week after that for Halloween we're going to have Lisa Morton. She's somewhat of a Halloween historian and a screenwriter, writer. Has a background of working in modeling and effects for sci-fi movies and stuff. Going to be a very interesting guest. We'll talk a lot about. She's got a new book about seances, about the history of seances in the United States. So that'll be kind of fun. Hint, it's not what you think. All right.
That's who was into seances? It was the guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle. He got really into that stuff, spiritualism.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to hear about. Yeah. Does she now? Here's a question: does she live in Burbank?
I don't know if she does. I don't think so.
I feel like Burbank is like the unofficial name of Burbank is Halloween Town because I feel like there's so many. I mean, it goes.
That's the name of a store in Burbank is Halloween Town. Is that what you're thinking of?
Oh, I was thinking of the Disney movie, but the Disney. No, not. I'm not going to even say the Disney movie because you can't call it a Disney movie. It's a Disney Channel movie.
Okay.
And there was a sequel, Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge. If you remember it, comment, and we don't care. But yeah, basically in Burbank, there's a lot of costume shops. I just remember I was working in Burbank at a time on. It was like Airport Boulevard or whatever. I don't know.
Magnolia? Are you thinking of Magnolia?
Yeah, Magnolia. Yeah, that's it. And I walked down the street and like every other shop that I was walking into was like a Halloween themed shop. And I figured out, and it was, probably like June. And I remember realizing, it's because they're costume shops. Yeah. And they needed them for the film industry. So they just decided to sort of, some of them just embraced it and just went Halloween all year round.
And that Halloween Town in Burbank, I actually ran into Derek Waters, the comedy writer and the creator of Drunk History, which is kind of cool. I don't know what he was shopping for, but that was one of my first like LA sightings where I was like starstruck and probably nobody there knew who he was, but being as a comedy nerd, I was like, oh man, Derek Waters.
Unless you're into the alt comedy scene, you're not gonna like some of these people. It's like you're not gonna know, but that's that's what makes it all the more special is that it's, you're special.
Definitely, I am special.
They're special, and you're special.
My teachers always told me that growing up. I also got extended time on all of my math exams. Donovan, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
And as are you. Thank you.
You guys have a great week.
It was like an ASMR ending.
Yeah.
You guys have a great week.
This has been the Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Rise and shine, we got work to do. Hey!